asked God to please show him his glory so that Moshe could get to know Hashem better. God's response was, you cannot see my face and live, but I will show you my back. So God, with his hand, covered Moshe's face while he passed. And when all Moshe was able to see was God's back, God removed his hand and Moshe gazed. But Hashem's hand was on his face. And so from then on, his face glowed brightly. Moshe's face didn't grow brightly because of what he saw. It grew brightly because of what he didn't see. It didn't glow because of what he had found. It glowed because of what he was searching for. Moshe's entire life, to the last day when he unsuccessfully sought entry into the land of Israel, was one long search for Hashem. For all his historic accomplishments, for providing a structure for the relationship for his people and Hashem, for all the clarity of vision he possessed and that he shared with us, Moshe remained a seeker. He wasn't lost. There was no one in history who was more found than him. He wasn't wandering. He knew exactly where he was going. But he was a seeker. He was a soul wearing a body. And the soul is the ultimate seeker. From the moment the soul is assigned to a life on earth, it yearns and seeks to reconnect with Hashem. Another mitzvah, another prayer, another act of kindness, another mitzvah, and yet another mitzvah. And it's never enough. The yearning is infinite and intense, like Hashem himself is. All that we've shared about Moshe is as true about our Rebbe. To say the Rebbe's face shined is like saying the sun shines. And despite the incredible army of Shloshim, Chabad houses, educational centers, and countless other points of light in the Rebbe's legendary network of godliness we're all so familiar with, the Rebbe was a seeker. Ordinary people were puzzled when the Rebbe, perhaps one of the most accomplished men in the world, wept and pleaded for Mashiach. He wanted more. He had touched millions of people, ignited millions of souls, and yet he yearned for more, much more. The Rebbe farbrained for hours. He spoke and taught, clarified, and encouraged and challenged. He said l'chaim with the Chassidim. He sang with them. He danced with them. And he rejoiced with them with the sheer thrill and beauty of Yiddishkeit. And then, suddenly, in the midst of all of the intellectual and emotional euphoria, the room would fall silent. And in a steady, broken voice, the Rebbe sang a heartbreaking solo. Sama lecha nafshi. My soul thirsts for you. My mother bonded with the Rebbe at that moment. The atmosphere was wonderful. The lessons compelling. The joy was uplifting. The energy was invigorating. But the yearning and the seeking, my mother connected with that with a power that would not let up. She had spent her earlier years trying to find something to seek, something to yearn for. but nothing was worth looking for. Then she encountered Yiddishkeit and detected truth. And when she discovered the Rebbe's yearning, thirsting for God, she knew she'd hit pay dirt. It was the intense yearning that animated her and everything that she did. This is what stimulated and drove the greater than life energy my mother embodied. This is why she never let up and could never get enough of anything good and holy. It's why she advocated for more and for better all the time. Why when she faced hurt and pain, this intensified her seeking and pursuit of healing and justice. She wasn't in it for the experience. She was in it because her neshama burned with a thirst that could not be quenched, and my mother felt it. She felt it in her own neshama and in the neshamas of the people that she met and knew. The soul's longing for authenticity, for truth, for Torah, and for Hashem. Her imagination was captive to the utopia of what could be, what ought to be, and what we should strive for with everything we've got. She pushed herself and everyone around her to be in a constant state of tzama l'cha nafshi. It's why she actively looked for people to help. It's why she hungered for her children to learn more, always more. Another class, another session, private tutoring. It's why one day I found her sitting on the staircase outside the dining room where I was being tutored with Rabbi Tversky. And when I asked her, "What are you sitting there?" she said, "I love listening to you learn." She couldn't get enough of it. The yearning is why she was in love with music, which expresses yearning like nothing else. And it's why she was utterly obsessed with bringing Mashiach, the ultimate expression of tzama l'cha nafshi. She began her life seeking, and she lived her life seeking. Hashem hid, and she sought him out. At the earliest periods of her life, with every reason to remain pained and hurt, she went looking for the truth. And when she found it, she yearned for it even more. Thirst is the heart of education. It's the ultimate goal and purpose schools and educators should be seeking to cultivate and develop. If you can trigger a thirst for knowledge in a student, you've achieved your goal. And if you can kindle a thirst for truth, a thirst for growth and development, a desire for a deep and personal relationship with Hashem and Torah, you've provided them with a lifetime quest. They're set for life. This quest will be their purpose and higher meaning for everything that they will do. I pray that my mother's example of tzama l'cha nafshi will take root in us, in me. I hope and pray that it will endow my meager efforts in education with fresh blessings, that our students be energized with their sense of awe, reverence, and the relentless pursuit of truth and godliness. I pray fervently for the coming of Mashiach, the complete redemption. When that happens, Moshe Rabbeinu will finally step into the Holy Land he yearned for. The Rebbe will finally see the Geula Hamitas Vashlema he so passionately longed for. We will be back. with our mommy again. And mommy will learn from the Rebbe what Samalach Nafshi will mean after all our hopes, dreams, and longings and yearnings have come true.
After you should have Arichus Yom V'Shadim Tevis, a long and happy life surrounded by people who love you and people who you love.
And we all, the love that you have for each of us is felt. It's felt. The deep, deep love that you have for all of us is felt by each of us every day and all the time. And we love you so much. Chaim Nick walked into the depth for your goodness, and when he walked in, the Rebbe did not acknowledge that he walked in and was sitting with his eyes closed, clearly with tears having come from his eyes.
From the Rebbe's eyes, and Rabbi Gutnick, with his unique relationship that we have with the Rebbe, asked the Rebbe what it is, Chas v'Shalom, something that's causing the Rebbe pain. And the Rebbe said that there's a couple now that's moving on shluchos, and the daughter is an only child, and the mother is having a really hard time with it. The parents are having a really hard time with it, and how can I not be with them in those difficult moments as they're seeing their children off? The last time that our family was together, all together, was last summer. We had a get together in Ohio, and the last night kind of turned into somewhat of a farewell to Sophie and I, my wife, before we went on shluchos to Budapest, Hungary. We were going around the table, and when it got to my mother, there was a lot of crying. It was very heavy. Both my parents were crying. My mother was just louder at it. And she asked me why it has to be so far. Were there no openings closer by? And after a little back and forth about that, she asked us to sing Tzemmy Nafshi. And my sister just shared the videos of us singing Tzemmy Nafshi and my mother weeping and weeping. And I really understood what it meant, bittersweet, where she was clearly very, very proud of her children. Moving on to Rebbe Shluchos, and how hard it was for her that she'd have to see us less. The next day, also, my sister shared the video, but of course we all remember it, where my wife and I packed all our bags into our rental. We were going to drive from Ohio to Crown Heights, pack up our apartment, and everyone was dancing, Taya Brida, Shluchi Adinenu, and my mother was, of course, front and center of it all. And as we were pulling off, she said to everybody, "Come, let's dance around their car. Let's dance around their car." She was the only one that did, with her arms waving and screaming. And as we pulled away, she waved and waved until she couldn't see us anymore. And she told Chana that that when she was in Muncie by Aunt Frida, Mrs. Frida Bassman, she stood on the Aunt Frida stood on the porch waving at my mother until she couldn't see her anymore. And that was the last time she saw Aunt Frida. It was my parents' passion for everything having to do with the Rebbe and Chassidus. I wouldn't call it so much, Chassidish ideologies or Chassidish Hanaches. It was more just the passion, just the pure passion and energy and emotion that had anything to do with the Rebbe. I remember her excitingly explaining to us Simchas Torah by the Rebbe, how she'd have to strategically choose between the first Vibrant show and the third Vibrant show if she wanted to see the Rebbe by the first and seventh Hakafa, or to see the Rebbe the rest of the time. She'd have to choose different years. She did different things, and her waving her arms, the way the Rebbe did, and singing the Nagunim, and it was for sure, my parents and especially my mother's just outpouring of emotion and passion that for sure drove me to go on shlichus, and I will continue to, I hope, make my mother proud in the work that we do.